Hello and welcome to the Game Football Podcast from the Times. Two very different wins at the top of the table as Manchester City show their strength at Palace, whilst Arsenal wobble at home to Wolves. But just behind them, Morgan Rogers keeps Aston Villa's amazing run going. Maybe Thomas Tuchel knows what he's doing after all. On today's show, we'll also discuss Sunderland's victory in the Tyne Wear derby, a brilliant win for Nottingham Forest, but more woe for Thomas Frank, and we'll take a look at the players heading to the Africa Cup of Nations. I'm Tom Clarke, and joining me today we have the senior sports writer and Sunday Times columnist Alyson, the football reporter and tactics analyst Hamzah Khalique-Loonat, and the former footballer turned journalist Gregor Robertson. It's here as usual. Team, breaking news. We're not going to talk about Liverpool at the top of the show. It's not a deliberate dig, Liverpool fans. You won. It's a good win. Goals for Ekitike. Salah was back and then maybe gone again. We'll bring it up at the end of the show, but we're not starting with Liverpool, which is actually quite refreshing, I think, Gregor.
Yeah, I think a lot of people
listening back
to
Thursday's show after the Champions League, we did about 45 minutes on Liverpool and then barely mentioned any of the other wins, which they did get a few emails about that from certain listeners, but hopefully we'll appease them.
So we're in hock to like a few guys that email. Whoa.
I do actually like the listeners to enjoy the show, Hamzah. That's generally my tactic. I mean, football managers wanting to, the fans to be happy. It's a rogue move.
I watch a lot of football. I don't enjoy most of it.
Me neither. To be the Brentford Leeds, I will tell you, but we'll get to that too.
Strong start on the vibes front, everyone. Excellent. Two of you hate going to football matches despite getting paid to do it. Anyway, Alyson, hopefully you enjoyed your game. And let's start there with Manchester City. And I would say an ominous victory for them against an excellent Palace side, who I thought played quite well.
I know.
And still lost 3-0
to
a side that actually looked like they were kind of always going to win. Would that be a fair assessment of the game, do you think?
That's pretty good. Why did I bother going? If someone who's watching on 4 screens manages to glean that information.
All three of you don't actually like going to football. What a revelation this show is turning out to be. But a dominant win for City and quite ominous, yeah.
The reason it's ominous is that, well, there are lots of signs. One being that at the end, Oliver Glasner was as chuffed as I've ever seen him. And
really?
After a 3-0 defeat, he thought they played really well.
It was better than the cup final performance.
Well, not quite, but he was sort of saying it's certainly better than some of their recent victories. So he was really pleased with the
And they were good in the first half, I thought. They were good. But
they were good. They were good throughout. They just didn't have the cutting edge. They hit the woodwork twice. So if you've got the manager who's just lost at home 3-0, really happy with the performance, the overall performance and what it means for what is their best ever start to a Premier League campaign. So this, I would argue, doesn't derail Palace's good start in any way. In fact, it builds upon it. But if you've got the manager who lost 3-0 being really upbeat kind of guy, and the manager who's just won 3-0 reminding everybody that they've got to learn and they're not that good yet, and he's got faith that they will be, but they're not there yet, and throwing in lots of grenades of negativity as well. He does that, Pep, doesn't he?
It's like you three at the start of this show.
Yeah, he'll throw in a let's not get carried away, we're not that good, and then start calling people brilliant. But his overall demeanour was of one of this isn't. We can be so much better. So if you take those facts and compare them to how Arsenal and Arteta was after their very lucky win against Wolves. You and there's 2 points in it at the top. You have to conclude. Everybody has to conclude that it's by no means Arsenal's to lose. It's City's to win, I would say.
Well, I'll come back to you on City and with things that were good about them from that game. But you make a good point to bring in Hamzah, who was at the Arsenal Wolves game, and with just one question, Hamzah, before we'll then go back to City and then we'll come back to Arsenal. Was this, Alyson touched on it there, a lucky win for Arsenal that's actually a bit worrying for their fans? Or was this a case of the cliche that we often say of, good teams win when they're playing badly and find a way to win, etc. And actually you'd look at it like that. Which way would you look at this 2-1 win against Wolves?
Well, result is great because 3 points, fantastic for the title race. The way that they responded after conceding was great, but the demeanour of Mikel Arteta in the press conference gave away that he was very, very displeased. And I think that gives away the sort of sign, gives away his feelings towards a match and why that point that you made it is probably right, that this is less good of a performance for Arsenal and one which raises questions which now they're going to have to answer, right? They've got to respond back in kind, and the momentum feels like it's with City at the moment. But momentum is a nebulous thing, right? So maybe we don't need to focus too much on that.
Yeah. I'll go back to the gut. Gregor, what do you make of it Alyson teed it up there about whether it's, Arsenal's to lose or City's to win, different ways of framing it after these two games and listening to your two colleagues who were at both these matches.
I feel like in a kind of peaks and troughs with every passing week or couple of weeks. I think City, you look at the shot count, you look at some of the chances Palace passed up. It could have been a different day, but they are looking quite clinical. The fact that they have, like, Foden's being pretty clinical in front of goal. Haaland, clearly, 17 goals in the Premier League now. Like, just a really good delivery in the box, and it's a goal. That's the thing that Palace lacked. Mateta looks off it. But then Arsenal, like, it just feels like any little chink in their armour is kind of almost sparks a sort of melodrama. Like, and like, oh my God, are they gonna do what they've done in the past couple of seasons? And like they did ultimately find a way to get the 3 points, and yeah, that is good for the title race. So like, I just think I think we all thought probably slightly prematurely that this was Arsenal's season. I wouldn't get carried away by City either. I still think that I think they're improving. I think they're a different proposition. They're not dominating possession in the way that they used to. They're playing much more direct. They're kind of trying to play more to Haaland's strengths, but I still think that they're not the City of old. So.
To that point, Alyson, to come back to City, and you said there how good Palace was, and Glasner was pleased, and Gregor's saying on another day, Palace could have been 2-2 maybe in a different world. What do you think then that there's the flip side to the City argument that yes, they could then go back to being the side that concedes a few bad goals and drops a few points over this very busy period we've got coming up?
I'm side with Pep. I don't think they are in that zone that they've been in previous seasons when they have won the title, but. There was something about them. They were very how can I put it? Cautious to start with. Right. They were feeling their way through the game. A lot of sideways passing, a lot of possession. Not quite as much possession as I thought they'd have, in fact. But they're very good. It's like AI football. They're very good at learning during the 90 minutes. Right. And Phil Foden said that afterwards. We were just sort of a bit confused to start off with. So, but instead of panicking or conceding in those moments, and they might have done, they might have done that. The Palace did hit the post. They sort of, it's a standard template from them. Haaland doesn't see a lot of the ball, but he's there, and for as long as he's there, it's a
great header as well.
It's a looming prospect. He's gonna, as soon as he gets the ball in the dangerous area, you just know he's gonna score. So I think that does a lot to the mentality of the opposition. But it's a great header, and other than the marking at that cross, Palace did defend very well. But they don't. What City don't do, which you see other teams doing, is they never panic. They don't seem to panic. They seem to just sort of use the minutes that they had to learn from what was happening, and to understand that in the second half, particularly, they would have to be a bit more inventive with their passing. Just push up a little bit more. Just be a little bit more aggressive.
Yeah.
They were being bullied a bit in midfield, but so they just passed it wide for a bit. It was their lack of panic, really, in the face of probably Palace giving, if you trust what the manager's saying, one of their best performances of the season. And if you can do that when you're away from home and you're being bullied a little bit, outthought a little bit, and still emerge to win 3-0. I just think that says to me, you have the attributes of what it takes to be the champions. Because they know it. They're not, and they're not desperate to do it either. There's at one point I thought I interpreted a frown from Guardiola as being he was a bit worried that they were a bit too relaxed, if anything. There was a casualness about.
Got your binoculars out.
Also, what was the debate on the sidelines?
There was a free kick awarded. They looked like Haaland and Clarke, I think. It looked like maybe Haaland had been the aggressor, but he won the free kick. So they were discussing in what ways it was actually a City free kick, and so the expressions were hilarious. They went from Glasner trying to be intellectual and nodding along, and then going, no, actually, I don't accept this. And then as soon as Guardiola realised he hadn't won the argument, going, but I think we did doing the free kick fairly, and it went on and on and on and on and on and on. But it was they hugged at the end.
Just coming back to your point then about panic versus not panic, is that ultimately what we're coming down to here? A team who won the title lots of times in recent years with quite experienced players going, it's all right, it's fine, we can adapt to this. And then Arsenal, as much as Hamzah, great to get the win, great late goals, etc. Fantastic celebrations amongst the players you could see. But I did also wonder whether in some of those scenes you saw a slight bit of, I don't know, stressed relief coming out as well. It's not like, yes, we did it, I knew we'd do it. It was more, thank God we did it, type thing. And was that the feeling in the Emirates, maybe?
Yeah, that's true. But at the same time, whereas when I've been at the Emirates in recent years and earlier this season, and Arsenal haven't quite been playing as the way that the fans would like, and the result is there, but they haven't taken it, and you can sense your anxiety in this match. That wasn't actually there.
Oh, right.
The majority of it, there was a self-confidence that Arsenal would actually get the win.
Right.
Even though Wolves were quite dogged and it took until the 70th minute, the fans were pretty patient in a way that I think they haven't always been.
Interesting.
And they have faith in the project and that the team will win. In those final 5 minutes, I can't remember, to be honest, because I looked at my match report and went, I've got to change this. And then, to be completely honest, those last 5 minutes, I don't remember exactly how it felt.
Yeah.
I just sort of looked up, I went, oh God, there's a Wolves goal. Let me rewrite this. Look down, look back up. Oh, it's 2-1 again. Oh, let me redo that. And I think as well, it's probably worth remembering some other context as well. So Wolves are the worst team in the league, and Arsenal should beat them comfortably. But if you look at the stats line, Arsenal were comfortably better. I know there are 2 own goals, but for example, you don't get XG from own goals, right? So Arsenal still won the XG without having any goals.
Right.
They also had a completely rejigged back line that they were forced to change again on the 30th minute when Ben White got injured. And I think that's actually going to be the key more than sort of the panic, right? Who can keep the best players fit through this period and come out on top? It's like a sort of roller coaster ride, but like it's more than white knuckle. It's like you're holding on, and at the end of it, you just have to check which sort of vital organs you've got left and which limbs you have.
Sounds like a terrible roller coaster, I've got to be honest.
Whichever team will have their heart, their lungs, their pancreas all in place, and maybe the legs, will be the best position to attack that second half of the season. At the moment, Arsenal are in an awful position with their injuries. It doesn't help that their style is super intense, but that's what gets them results in the first place, right? So finding that balance is really difficult. How can you be super intense that you don't ever give anything away? And when, for example, Wolves break down one end, you send 5 guys or 6 literally herring back, and you see the sprints that they're putting in, you're like, woof, that's going to take a lot out of these players physiologically. How do you keep that? Because that's so important to ensuring a win, while also making sure that you've got enough for the next game and the game after that and the game after that. That's the real challenge. And I'm not entirely sure how that's going to go at the moment, but I think because of City's injury situation and the fact that at some point we expect Rodri will return, that will give them an advantage in addition to the psychological one that they hold, having been in this experience before in that final third of the season. But they've got to stay there.
Erling Haaland.
Yeah. Which is ultimately one of the key things, and does lead me on to the final point that I wanted to ask you, Hamzah, about Victor Gyökeres and his starts to the season. Well, more than a start, we're well into December now. £64 million spent, 2 goals at home against Leeds, a goal at home against Nottingham Forest, 2 goals at home against Atletico Madrid, and 1 against Burnley. It's not looking like a great fit so far, is it? It's the subject of your piece on the Times website now. Tell us a little bit about some of the points you were making in that article.
I think a lot of people raise this when he was linked with Arsenal in the summer. There is a certain... When he was in Portugal, he was a very good goal scorer, but the Portuguese league is a little bit different, and the way that he scored his goals for Sporting Lisbon was that there would often be balls played in behind that he could run onto. And in the Champions League as well, you could see that. Arsenal's problem has been, not just this season, but the past 2-3 seasons, is that teams sit back deep against them. So there's not that space in behind. Now this isn't a unique challenge. You could say, well, Erling Haaland was great at scoring counter-attacking goals for Borussia Dortmund, turned up at Manchester City, and then was like, oh, there's not much space to run into. I know his debut goal against West Ham was one of those goals, but if you actually look through his goal catalogue, there's not that many of those of him running in behind. So he's had to adapt and evolve, and he has, because he's brilliant. And I don't think Gyökeres has And I think it's because he's in his peak now. This is who he is as a player.
You don't think he can adapt?
I don't think to develop those skills to become a penalty box finisher and to add what the team needs, I think that's a little bit unfair on him as well, because that's who he's developed as a player. He's 27, right? To add a completely new skill set at this age is quite difficult, and I think that's why he's been struggling. That's why he's been isolated in matches, and it's a different type of isolation to Haaland, for example. So if you take a look at Haaland, even when he doesn't have the ball, he is creating space space for his teammates and problems for the opposition.
Yeah.
His movement will create opportunities for his teammates. He has a gravity where he sucks players in, and then suddenly someone like Foden or Doku have space elsewhere, or Shirky could have space to play and exploit. Gyökeres, in this match, he was marshalled by the Wolves defence, which doesn't speak too well for him. And while he was on the pitch, there were 29 crosses that came in, and he didn't do much with any of them. He had one shot in the match, and then when he comes off, Gabriel Jesus comes on, very different type of forward. Not a big guy, but one with exceptional movement, really sharp late runs, often across the face of the goal. He links in very nicely as well. He does manipulate space for his teammates. And that cross that Arsenal scored their second goal from...
They didn't score.
Well, yeah, but Jesus was the one that attacked. He made the movement to attack, and that prompted the header into Wolves' own goal.
Yeah.
And I think when you look at it, it's not acceptable that he's having fewer shots per 90 than Merino, Trossard, Havertz, Jesus in their time at Arsenal. And I'm not isolating when they're playing as strikers. I mean, in their entirety.
Right.
So that includes Merino as a midfielder, right?
Yeah.
That's not what Arsenal need or want. And I think when Mikel Arteta was disappointed at the start of the press conference, what he actually mentioned was the margin should have been bigger.
Yeah.
And if the margin should have been bigger, that should have been the striker's job, right? But this speaks to a discussion that we had last season when everyone was like, they've got to sign a striker, and you're thinking, that's not quite the issue. Perhaps you could get more output from the other guys instead. And a different centre forward doesn't necessarily change that dynamic, but a poorer centre forward than Havertz definitely does, because they're not as good.
Is it unkind or counterintuitive? Or I look at Gyökeres and I don't. He doesn't look like physically doesn't look like a Premier League striker. Is that just being mean-spirited, or is that a factor?
I totally agree, and I think the thing is, one of his super strength, if you want to call it that, has been his physicality until now. And it's come back to the thing about the Premier League. It's just a different world to anything else. He looked like an absolute beast in Championship. He looked like an absolute beast in Portuguese top flight. Like, you saw a lot of his goals. He's like a bulldozer. He's not sharp around the box. He would bulldoze people out the way in the box. Or he would get that bit of space that Hamzah was talking about and maybe cut inside. And it made defenders look really average, probably because they were. Now he's coming up against, even if it's the Wolves defenders, they can match him physically, or actually more, they can dominate him physically. And then what have you got? So, I don't think I'm not going to write him off now, but and it's not that long ago, in fact, that Arteta was saying that some of the stuff Hamzah was talking about there about drawing away defenders and creating space for others was something he was praising him for. So I think there is an element of that. But then almost when he's just that guy occupying defenders, Arsenal look a bit clunkier in attack. If it's Merino and he's in that month when he was out injured and he was dropping off, and the Arsenal's attack looked much more fluid, and they were all he was linking with Eze, and it just looked better. So it's not auguring particularly well for him. But the truth as well is, if he's in a functioning attack for Arsenal at the top of the league, he will get some goals. Yeah, it's just he's not. I think a lot of us thought at the time when he signed, he's not a game changer. He's just like another option for them. Yeah. And in speaking of options, then Hamzah, just finally on you listed some of those players there. Are you suggesting that when Havertz is fit again and with Jesus coming back, would you be picking those two players ahead of Gyökeres? I think most Arsenal fans would feel that Arteta would definitely pick Havertz ahead of Gyökeres. I think that, well, first of all, Arteta loves him. He's spoken for ages about all the qualities that he has, especially off the ball. And I think what he does off the ball is far better than what Gyökeres does off the ball. And then what he does on the ball, because he scores a bit more, is also better. So I think that's a pretty straightforward sort of thing. The only thing that Mikel might be a bit careful about is managing his minutes, because he doesn't want to break him again. And I'm not sure about whether
Jesus will slot back in as well. Again, he's someone that they need to manage very carefully because of his history of injuries. But I think let's imagine all three guys are fully fit right now. Havertz would be first choice, and then I think it might just be horses for courses for Gyökeres and Jesus.
Really interesting
But
Arsenal
back
fans.
to Selhurst Park. I just want you to know that Operation Austrian Pastry went very well.
Operation Austrian Pastry.
Yeah.
Go on, tell us more.
Do you want to know more? I don't.
Well,
know
I mean, you've got
anything.
to now because
Do I?
you've teased it in, and listeners are going to be like, "What the hell's that about?" Go on.
Well, they might remember. So when I interviewed Oliver Glasner ahead of the semi-final of the FA Cup, I was banging on about an Austrian cafe near me. And then I said, sorry, I'm banging on about the pastries and I haven't brought one for you. So next time I see you, I will bring some Austrian pastries. I promise.
Operation Austrian Pastry. How silly of me.
But I promised, and you've got to keep a promise.
You
And
do, yes.
I didn't see him. I didn't actually see him the last time I saw Palace play. So I went in the morning to the Austrian cafe, and they packaged up a little box for him.
How many did you get?
I got one big one and two little Google Huts.
Right.
And we had a bit of a. And he opened the box up and started analysing the box and checking Google Translate for what they call them in Austria. So
When did all this occur? Was this like
half time? Yeah.
You just waltzed into the dressing room. No wonder they lost 3-0.
Oliver?
Oliver!
Pastry time!
I've got your pictures, darling. No, seriously, when did it... No, but seriously, I assume this was after the game.
Of course, it was after the
I
game.
just want you
But
to...
like during the press conference, like before the press.
After the press conference.
Okay.
I just want to make sure, I don't want Palace fans getting... No wonder we lost. Oliver's distracted by some fancy pastries.
No wonder he's so pleased after the match.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't care. I can see that box over there. It's nice and big.
Got an absolute sugar rush. It was the best game ever. I love this. Absolutely fantastic. Alyson, I'm delighted. Thank you for sharing that with us. The Operation Pastry went well. You can look forward to the exclusive Oliver Glasner interview with Alyson Rudd at the end of the season after that, I'm sure. A quick mention for Chelsea. A good win for them against Everton, but Enzo Maresca taking the headlines after some odd comments after this game about not being supported and things like that. He is holding a press conference today, just after we finish recording this show, before their Carabao Cup match with Cardiff. So we'll return to the subject of Chelsea on Thursday as we wait to see what Enzo has to say for himself today. You can read that on the Times website, I'm sure. Cole Palmer was back, though, and pretty good timing because this season there's another English number 10 who has the same celebration and is looking just as effective and jumped ahead of him in the pecking order. Morgan Rogers starring again for Aston Villa in a 3-2 victory at West Ham. It's a very simple question. How good is Morgan Rogers?
He's brilliant, isn't he? Brilliant.
Yeah.
I just love his demeanour as well. It's as though it comes so naturally to him. And I thought it was interesting that his manager says afterwards he's funny in the dressing room. It's like there's no pressure on him. He's not like sometimes players come to the fore and it weighs on them a bit, especially there's all the chat about who will Tuchel pick, and there is a bit of sniffiness. Well, he only plays for Aston Villa, and why is he taking the place of these bigger names, and why does Tuchel love him so much? But it does not show in his attitude. He'll take a shot from anywhere because he knows he's got the ability to do it, but he's not scared of the
It's not just the ability.
criticism he might get for not passing.
He looks like he knows he's going to score. That one against West Ham.
Usually arrogant.
No, just in a simple way. But like, I'm going to make this dipping shot, look really easy.
Yeah,
actually,
yeah.
I was watching it with the head of department, James, yesterday in the office, and when he got that ball on the turn, I went, "This might go in." And then bang, he hits it straight in. And I'm not saying that to be, I know loads about football. I've just seen him do it loads of times.
Yeah.
You've just seen him do it loads of times now, haven't you, in his short career? Go on.
Did he go on loan to Lincoln?
He did go on loan to
did,
Lincoln.
Yeah.
Surely that gives me a bit of credit.
Well, I was
in
at
the back.
the Spurs game, and he did something very similar. And it's also just sort of the instinct to do it. In that game, I think he tried to get a 1-2, and it kind of ricocheted back off Xavi Simons, I think it was. And he just took one, like, the ball just kind of almost bounced off him. And at that moment, he just, like, in a split second, he was hitting that knuckleball strike. It's like,
and he hits it, and you know it, and you're like, that's in.
It's just like a couple of times before thing. Like when I was a kid, I remember there was a kid when I was like 12, and there was a period where you could shoot from outside the box, and the goalkeepers were still quite small. You just moved up to 11v11, and it was so easy. I remember shooting from outside the box. I'd score like 30 goals from left back a season. It was brilliant. It's like he's got that attitude. It is. You're right. He thinks, I know that I've got this technique, and if I strike it and connect with it properly, this is a goal.
Yeah.
Like, he's got that depth. It's got
some
power.
Some of his finishes and strikes reminds me a little bit of that season Gareth Bale had at Tottenham, where he's picking that ball up in that kind of pocket between defence and midfield, and turning. And most other players would be like, pass, play a through ball, and he's like, no, I'm just going to put this in that top corner about 30 yards away. Absolutely no problem.
Also, when Alyson was saying all that, there are parallels with Cole Palmer. I'm not, like, obviously they're friends.
Yeah.
Like,
not just the celebration.
Celebration was his first.
Was Morgan Rogers' celebration, yeah.
And obviously they came through at City together. But there is a bit of a, like, Palmer's like ridiculously laid back, but there is a kind of just a enjoyment, a sense of enjoyment when they're on the pitch. Like, this is where we belong. And this journey's been remarkable, really, when you consider not just alone and going to Middlesbrough,
which didn't work, and he was at Blackpool as well, I think, on loan, and that wasn't particularly good spell for him.
Middlesbrough was where he started to kind of really kick on, but still, it was like, what they saying, from 7 million or 10 million or something?
Yeah, not loads.
And I was like, oh, that's a bit of a punt, and it's just immediately, this is the stage on which I belong, and like there was, coming back to Cole Palmer again, his goal at the weekend. They're also so intelligent. Like, despite the laid back and the fun and all this, they're smart. Cole Palmer, if you watch his goal at the weekend, when Fofana was running forward with the ball, he was pointing at Gusto. He was like, give him the ball, and he was in a little pocket space. Give him the ball. And when he passed it to him, he made the run. And he slotted him in, scored a goal, rubbing his arms. Yeah. Easy as pie. But there's a lot of intelligence in that too. And Rogers is the same. When he links up in the little spaces, it's so easy the way he just kind of fires it into someone for a 1-2 with the outside of his foot, and it all just looks really easy, but it's also really intelligent football.
I think it's interesting that you mentioned enjoyment, because for a while this season, Rogers looked like he actually wasn't enjoying the match, the games, because he was playing poorly. And I actually think, I mean, Johnny did his piece on Villa as well this weekend, but I think this is a masterclass in man management by Unai Emery. Yeah. Because he's spoken about this a number of times. He essentially said, when Villa was struggling, he says, I know we're struggling. I know that Morgan Rogers is struggling. And when you looked at him in matches, you were thinking, who's this guy? Well, where's the guy that we saw last season? I was at the Feyenoord match in particular. I was like, what is he doing? He was not doing the things that he usually executed that came to him so easily. It was simple passes. And you think, he's trying so hard, but it's not working. And Unai was very clear in that, I am going to stick with him. He's going to ride this out. I'm going to back him through this bad period of form, and he's going to come good. And likewise with Ollie Watkins as well.
But the whole Villa team, really, given the start of the season.
The key thing was that they would play through Rogers in particular, right? He would be the guy that switches that slow period of possession where they're in the defensive third, and then they move it into him, and then bang, they snap forward and they attack. So their attack hinged on him. He wasn't playing well, and it became very obvious. And Unai backed him and backed him and backed him, and knowing that he would come good, and he did. And now he's getting the rewards for that. So I think it's both testament to Rogers' quality as an individual, but also enormous respect and for Unai Emery in deciding that he would stick with him through this bad patch. Where other managers might say, you're not playing well, we'll actually give you a break. But he said, no, persist with this, keep playing, you will be back. And now he's playing brilliantly.
Yeah, well, we discussed the top two in the title race. Villa just behind them. Are they in the title race?
I mean, this is where you talk about, this is where Hamzah really should be talking about the data, because the data says no. It's like...
Which data is that? What's it?
Well, they scored 25 Premier League goals from expected goals of 17.06. That's a big sort of differential.
They're all Morgan Rogers wonder goals, aren't
even in this game, the XG was 1.04 to West Ham and 0.62 for Villa. Like, that says a lot. But they scored 10 goals from outside the box this season. That's 3 more than any other team. And then another stat from Bill Edgar's column this morning: 7 consecutive wins in all comps by a single goal margin, which is the most by a top flight team since Chelsea in 1965-66. These are low margin, like, also relying on quite a lot of wonder goals. So, from that perspective, then the answer is no. Also, you look at the squad depth, I think probably the answer is no. But when they have Rogers, if Ollie Watkins was to really, really, like,
kick on,
yeah, if he was to really kick on, I don't see why they couldn't hang on to the coattails and make it interesting. Because, as I say, I don't think Arsenal or City are without their flaws.
Yeah, well, Villa fans, Arsenal fans and City fans do get in touch with me. Tom.Clarke at thetimes.co.uk. Just one final little stat. Morgan Rogers, all 9 of his Premier League away goals for Aston Villa have either put them in the lead or drawn them level. Big game player. We're going to bring up West Ham in the second part of the show when we look at the bottom of the table. So time for a quick break. But one positive for West Ham this weekend. Jared Bowen became the second player to reach 100 Premier League goal involvements for the club. Who is the other with 101? Find out after the break. Welcome back to the Game Football Podcast from The Times. I'm Tom Clarke and I've got Hamzah, Khalique-Loonat, Alyson Rudd and Gregor Robertson back on song with answer to the quiz question straight away, which was...
Mikel Antonio.
Mikel Antonio, indeed. West Ham fans, we are going to talk about your club's situation at the bottom of the table in just a minute, but instead we're going to go to Sunderland, the Tyne-Wear derby. Let's be honest, a terrible game of football, this one. But Sunderland fans do not care in the slightest. A win for them, 26 points. They've beaten the local rivals. This season just keeps on getting better for Regis Lebris, doesn't it, Gregor?
Yeah, extraordinary. Raucous scenes, like Stadium Light looked like it was just bouncing.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved it. 10 years. You feel like there could have been a hint of sort of an inferiority complex, considering this is a team that have been, in the doldrums, just been promoted. And yeah, they've started the season brilliantly, but, there was just no sign of that whatsoever. There was like more, clearly they were like full of punch and all the kind of gritty.
All the cliches of a derby, yeah.
But that's what they're like every week.
Yeah.
Like, they almost look like Newcastle at their best. Like they matched they matched or bettered them for like all the things like intensity and
definitely, yeah,
like the force of the tackle, all these kind of things.
As I say, it wasn't a great game, but I do think Sunderland were the better side in this one. They deserved the win, despite the farcical nature with which it came, which we'll come on to in a second. But I think they were the better team in this game.
Yeah, and like players like Xhaka, Enzo Lefebvre, Talby, they look like they wanted to take the game by the scruff of the neck as well.
Nordi Mukele is my new favourite player as well, the right back. Obviously a fairly crunching challenge with Dan Burn. I don't think it was a red card, despite a lot of people.
No. I mean...
But there was a great moment in the second half where I think he tracked back and kind of won the ball and kicked it out for a throw in and just went mental, like screaming at the crowd, going, "Come on, fantastic!" I thought Gregor Robertson was going, knew you wouldn't let him have that one. What about the big challenges at the end? There was a couple of big challenges. I think Trey Hume put in a big tackle and gave it large.
93rd
minute.
Yeah, you're close to the final whistle. Yeah.
In stoppage time, you're allowed. Is that the Gregor Robertson rule?
On your job at hand.
Roy Keane alert, everybody.
Yeah.
But I mean, listen, as I said, 26 points. They've won 26 points in 16 Premier League games this season. They're most at this stage of a top flight campaign since 2000-2001, which was also 26 when they went on to finish 7th. I mean, we're going to talk about AFCON later, and they're missing more players than any other side in the Premier League by a long way. But despite that, they have got a strong squad, having spent well. There's no reason I can't see that they can't hopefully keep this going.
Yeah, I mean, you can get carried away, and as I say, I think if they were to finish in the top half of the table, it would be extraordinary.
Yeah,
and it's already turned into one of the stories of the season, and it was much needed, considering we got excited about Leeds and Burnley starting well too, and you thought, oh, this is great, and then Burnley are looking like they're falling off a cliff. Leeds, as we'll come on to talk about, need one man to stay fit if they've got any chance, I think. But Sunderland. It looks like they've recruited really smartly. That's the difference. They've recruited brilliantly, and they were bold. 16 new players, as Alyson wrote about in our column at the weekend. That comes with its own sense of risk. You could kind of upset the apple cart, and the atmosphere and the environment in the changing room and stuff could be really turned upside down. It's not done that, and as I keep saying, there's almost should be like a bingo game with Regis Lebris when he uses the word connectivity. He uses it between the players. He uses it between the crowd and the players, and he's always talking about that. And clearly, he's done an amazing job at forging that within the changing room. So you see that on the pitch, and you see Xhaka's been one of the signings of the season, if not the signing of the season, because
Robin Roofs isn't far behind him. I don't think he looks.
Yeah, but for the personality and the leadership and the drive and all those things, and you saw him speaking about quite kind of prickly in his sort of post-match interview about, this is karma, about the photograph and stuff like that.
Yeah,
He
it was a
wasn't
funny
there.
interview.
Yeah, he had made no bones
But
about
it's great. It's great that they did that as well. Obviously,
Yeah,
of
and they had
course.
visitors on the scoreboard.
Visitors on the scoreboard.
Magnificent
It
stuff.
comes back to the point about moving the hoardings in and everything like that. They're just like, come on, then let's have it. Come on, let's go. Let's go. We're going to show you we can stay in this league after the last 2 seasons.
They've obviously got the people who do their recruitment are clever people. I mean, they appointed a manager who'd just been relegated in League One in France. That doesn't bode well, does it? Grabbing a guy who's just overseen a relegation campaign, and yet he gets to grips with the Championship very quickly.
Very well, yeah.
Then you think, well, okay, Championship, maybe it's on a par with the French First Division, but how's he going to cope in the Premier League? He's got the brains. He strikes me as a really intelligent coach.
Yeah.
He's got the brains, and there, like Gregor said, there's always a danger if you do an overhaul of personnel that you'll lose something to do with the locals and that connection between the town and the pitch. You always need one. It's like they've acknowledged that and worked really hard at making sure the new players understand what it means to play for Sunderland. So if you had just landed from a different galaxy, you might have guessed that all the players playing for Sunderland were from Sunderland.
They all look like they've been
and
there
all the
ages.
players from Newcastle were not from Newcastle.
Yeah.
It was there was that sense of it really, really mattered.
Yeah.
More and sometimes in derbies where there are new players, and you sometimes think, oh, it's a shame. I didn't really get that the players understood what was at stake there. They'd been taught. I don't know if they'd had some sort of presentation.
Watched a couple of DVDs or something from
but
down
they
there.
got it. They definitely got
They
it.
definitely got it. Absolutely fantastic. Anyone prepared? I know a few Sunderland fans. I'm sure they probably wouldn't want us to say this, but anyone prepared to say that Sunderland will survive? Definitely.
Of course.
Of course.
I think so.
100%.
Oh my God! We're going to get some complaints from Sunderland fans about that one.
Points or something, and they've already got 26.
They've got the money in the bank already. I mean,
it's done by Christmas.
You look at the underlying figures, and they're not that good, but it doesn't matter because they've got the points, right? So I think
I guarantee there are still some Sunderland fans who'll be twitchy out there.
So I think in terms of underperformance and overperformance relative to XG, I think they have the third highest overperformance.
Right.
So their results probably haven't been have been better than their underlying.
Lots of late goals.
Lots of late goals.
But as in that
Good teams get late goals.
But there's been seasons where a team has overperformed by a lot, and that's just been the story. They overperform for the season. That's great.
Yeah.
And with the volume of points that they already have, I think they're in a good position. So even if or when they drop off, that they'll be able to retain their position in the league.
A fantastic afternoon for Sunderland, but dreadful from Newcastle. I thought they were absolutely dismal. One of the worst performances from their side. Eddie Howe apologising to the fans after the game, which I guess is the rule when you lose a derby match against your rivals.
He's been apologising for away performances quite a lot.
He has, yeah. And also, I've got a stat here that they haven't kept a clean sheet in their last 9 games in the Premier League, equaling the longest run without one in the competition under Eddie Howe, which goes back a couple of seasons, which, to your point, Gregor, about Sunderland matching them for all those things we've known about Newcastle in the last couple of seasons, doesn't bode well for Eddie Howe. This season, I keep talking about it, they're probably one of the most inconsistent teams in the league.
I think he needs to stop apologising, to be quite honest. I think it's as though he's...
What does he do instead? Blame.
It's like he's writing his own resignation letter.
So we should be critical of his players instead.
No, not necessarily. Although he has been critical of them and said they've fallen below the standards he thinks they have and expects from them. And he's trying all the different ways into what you say publicly to try and improve results. But what I think it would be better if he said, well, we're playing against a team who didn't have any European match midweek. I have the resources I have. I've got a Champions League campaign. We are summoning the best we can summon. By all means, say you'd have wanted more from a local derby, but to be consistently apologising, what you're left with, it might sound statesmanlike in the moment, but the cumulative effect of so many apologies is that he's out of his depth in some way, and which means you start getting chat about, oh, he's in danger, oh, he might get the sack.
Yeah, true.
Given, and which if you rewind, I think feeds back into this. When there was the Saudi takeover, there was a feeling they were going to get an A-list manager, and Eddie Howe.
Eddie
Howe coming from Bournemouth was not considered to be was considered to be a good English coach, but he wasn't the sparkling type of manager they thought they'd get. And then there was talk, if you remember, about Eddie Howe being, interim while they sort out how they spend all this money they've got. And then he ended up being rather good at the job. And there was quite a lot of love for him. But I think when he apologises, he sounds like the manager they didn't really want to start with.
I actually think they've got, there's always this kind of talk about the resources and stuff. I actually think they've got quite a strong, deep squad.
They've got a good striker. He's good at heading the ball, isn't he? Well, great finish. One, is it? I genuinely think there's a part of me that looks at it and goes, did he just forget they'd swapped ends? It's a great header by Voldemort.
Well, some people wear elastic bands when they play.
What to
and
tell?
Just to wake themselves up, so they do remember which end they're shooting at.
I refuse to believe there's Premier League footballers
look at the players who
swinging
came
at
on.
elastic bands. Go on, sorry.
Came on. Shaw, Willock, Harvey Barnes, Murphy's been brilliant for them. Johan Wissa is back. They had Joe Ellington and Jacob Ramsey on new subs. I think Joe Ellington had a knock.
Yeah.
Jacob Ramsey was a brilliant. That's a strong squad. I don't think. I kind of agree. I don't think he has anything to really be apologising for. I think that some of the players aren't really doing it for him. There's been quite a lot of stick in the aftermath of this for Anthony Elanga. He's not really navigated this move. Started quite well, but he was 55 million. That's quite a lot for Newcastle.
So does anyone think Eddie Howe's in trouble?
No, I don't. He certainly shouldn't be. I mean, yeah, what he's done. The job he's done has been outstanding. And Newcastle, and it has still been a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde season for them. They've still looked really good in some games. Their away form, as Alyson said, has been horrendous, and he needs to arrest that. But they've been pretty good on the whole in Europe. There's a bit of a downside during the week, but the season is still full of possibilities for them.
You are allowed to have down seasons, I think, if you, from an ownership or board perspective, and I think fans probably should take that longer view as well when you've got a manager as good as Eddie Howe. I think maybe there should be a bit of reflection with how the players are managed in terms of keeping them fit, and that might be something that he's looking at internally or the club are looking at internally. At the same time, they're a little bit unlucky as well in terms of their underperformance relative to their XG.
Right.
So they are underperforming, but at the same time, they are half as good as they were last season. So they are poorer, but probably not this poor.
Interesting.
And that's where you go, okay, maybe they're a bit unlucky. But there is definitely areas for improvement. I think maybe working on conditioning and fitness would go a long way in terms of being able to manage 3 games a week in European matches.
And Waldemar, although he's been a success and he's found in the net, he doesn't scream like a Newcastle player in the sense of a Newcastle Eddie Howe's Newcastle. They're all about dynamism and direct forward running, and he's not a runner. He's not. They're trying to make him a bit of a target man around which they can sort of play as well, and he actually would probably prefer to drop in and like we play in. So I think they're still working out that dynamic, and I'm not sure it's entirely comfortable for them.
They've lost specifically the ability to press high and then turn those chances into goals.
Yeah.
That's just the Isak factor, right?
Yeah.
Because if Gordon wins a ball and then squares it to Isak, bang, goal.
Yeah.
That dynamic has changed, and that was so important for them last season, so they're still adjusting to that.
Yeah, interesting. Congratulations to Sunderland fans. Though, Gregor, you mentioned some of the teams down the bottom there, and we've already talked about West Ham's defeat against Aston Villa, so let's bring them in. And the game that you were at, Brentford against Leeds. Not a cracker, this one. Thank God for some goals for some former England players in Jordan Henderson and Dominic Calvert-Lewin. I will just say, Gregor Robertson, is understandable why you don't like making predictions, because before this game he texted me saying he texted me saying this is going to be 3-2 to someone. I'm looking forward to it.
They've had some quite spicy games in the recent past, and Brentford at home are usually a really good ticket.
Yeah, I would have predicted goals.
Fourth best record in the league, I think, at home still. So yeah, there's some merit to that prediction, but it was a bad prediction. I'll give you that.
Yeah,
it was a bad game.
Who was this a better point for?
The reality
Neither
is,
of them.
No,
Take the point off both of them.
It was a good point for both of them. And actually, I think that was borne out in the first 70 minutes of the game, because both teams looked more scared to lose than desperate to win, sort of thing. And when the goal arrived, it was Damsgaard producing a moment of as a substitute. He didn't play him because I think Keith Andrews went for a bit more of a combative midfield kind of. Because Leeds obviously have changed to a back 3. They've gone a bit more direct. They've been quite good from set plays. I think he wanted to kind of combat all those things. The goal when Damsgaard came on, lovely pass, cut back, Henderson scored. And then Calvert-Lewin is really the story, is the thing I wrote about because there was nothing else to write about. But also, it is a good story because when he signed for Leeds, I'm sure everyone thought this could be a great signing if they keep him fit. And it's been so far so good. Like, and obviously we're only, 15, 16 games into the season. There's a long way to go. But because he scored in his last 4 games in a row, which is the first time he's done anything like that since 2020, he's already getting, questions. Farke was fielding questions. He was fielding questions about England. And like, he's so good in the air. Like, the ball into the box, when it comes in, you see his movement and his run and his timing and his leap. And it's a thing of beauty. There's nothing better than seeing a great header of the ball score a goal like that. And he is one of the best.
You keep saying could, and you're quite right. That's probably been the word that sums up Dominic Calvert-Lewin's career. But if he can stay fit and if he can score some goals, any chance of getting on that World Cup plane?
I mean,
it's another big pause, that Hamzah, wasn't it? Against
that squad is pretty tough to get into.
Yeah,
there's a lot of attacking players, and I think when
it's like you'd have to probably leave out one of the number 10s.
Yeah,
and there are going to be a lot of them.
And when Thomas Tuchel has earmarked Foden as a potential number 9 option, I think because he wants to get him in the squad, but doesn't want too many number 10s.
I wouldn't write it off. Farke said that he's had conversations with Thomas Tuchel about him, and if he was to go on a really hot streak, let's not forget that his last England game was the quarterfinals of the Euros in 2021 against Ukraine. He didn't feature much in that, but he went to those Euros when he was fit and he was in his pomp.
Yep.
So he offers something different. He used to say the same about Ivan Toney, and that looks unlikely now. He offers something different, like someone you can throw on, and he's brilliant in the air, like among the best there is in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Was this a look, Gregor? We know how there's been more directness in the league this season. Was this a look at a match where that's gone a bit too far? Both teams playing a bit too direct.
I wouldn't say that. I would just say it was a stinking match. There was no quality. There was very little intensity. It was awful.
I'm looking at passing accuracy, and it's like
it was brutal. It was one of those games where you think
acceptable.
The best league in the world.
Well, I was going to say, I was watching that first half and thinking about our conversation last week with Tom Allnutt, going, "Football's class, isn't it? Football's great. Fulham Palace, what a game! What standard this league!" And I'm going, "Oh my God, this is absolutely awful,"
I mean,
as you say."
But
let's not dwell too much on that. But let's talk about the bottom of the table, because that point for Leeds means 3 games unbeaten, a win and 2 draws. Have them in 17th place on 16 points. West Ham losing against Villa. I thought they played quite well in that game against Villa. They were good in the first half, had chances. As I say, Jared Bowen looking bright. Burnley losing at home to Fulham, starting to look bad for them and Scott Parker. Brentford, Bournemouth and Forest just above them. We're going to come on to Forest in just a second. How are we thinking about the bottom of the table? Leeds showing positive signs, bit of fight.
Yeah, look, I mean, after changing to the 3-5-2, they came within, it was a 91st minute goal by Phil Foden, denied them a point against City, 4 points from Chelsea and Liverpool. They've been awful on the road. This is a good point for them. Calvert-Lewin's in with the goals. Like, they do look a bit more, I don't know, coherent. It looks like more of a, like it suits them. The shape suits them. So yes, they're looking better, but still going to be touch and go. West Ham just need to do something about their defence. I'm telling you, Nuno hates so many of his defenders. Like, he turns around. You look at him at any game, he turns round and, like, with a scornful look on his face at some of the things his defenders are doing. And he spoke about afterwards. He's like, we can't keep shooting ourselves in the foot basically like this, because otherwise, like, the game plan, the threat they offer on the break, things like that, he's given them a chance now. So yeah, and Burnley, it's the same defensively, except they're not quite as good going forward.
Yeah, well, here's a hot take from me that's perhaps not as hot as the Sunderland one. Are definitely going to stay up. Nottingham Forest are not going down. Not a chance. If they play anything like they did against Tottenham, they'll be
top half.
Up in the top. They were absolutely fantastic. All the things we've talked about on this show that good teams in the Premier League need to have: physicality, pace, intensity, goal creating chances from all over the pitch. Hutchinson looks fantastic. Jesus up front looks really bright. Sangara, what a fantastic goal. Like, reminded me of one Michael Essien scored quite a few years ago for Chelsea.
Yeah.
Super Sean Dyche has got on playing well. It's almost like that Ange Postecoglou bit was like a bad dream in the middle of the season. It's crazy to think, isn't it? This Forest team started with Nuno, then had Ange, and has now got Sean Dyche. It is bonkers, isn't it? But they're playing brilliantly.
Tom Holland said that in his intro to his piece. You think about, these are two teams that have had to navigate transitions. Like, Forest have far more turmoil than Spurs.
Yeah.
You would say it like the Spurs got a better team on paper. It's not close.
Didn't
but
have one yesterday, I'm
well,
telling you.
Forest were better than them in every department. And yeah, like, he's given them that sort of defensive solidity. He always talks about the same things too. He's like, I love the shape and organisation and the platform, that foundation that my team had. But we were also talking the other day, Hamzah and I, about the fact that you would think, when you look at the kind of possession stats, you would think, Dyche has been there a long time now, that Forest would have plummeted. And they've been the all game where they have, like, ceded possession. But they're still like in the low 50s, which is for a Sean Dyche team is quite unusual. I think he's recognised that I've got better players here than probably I've ever had at any other team.
Oh,
and
surely must do.
Let's get them in good positions and get the most from them. So he still wants that platform, but he's got an array of attacking talents and two players who could be England midfielders, and he's letting them do their thing.
I loved his quote. He said something like, "Oh, we did everything without the ball well. We did everything."
There's 3 bits to the game. He said,
with the ball well, and all the other bits did those well.
I mean, they really did. You can't disagree with him. They were absolutely fantastic. There was a great moment as well, I think, where Murillo, I think he shoved Richarlison off the ball and it got given as a foul. And he kind of just looked up and looked down at Richarlison as if to say, "Oh, you lot are so soft. Like, that's not a foul in this team," kind of thing.
But that quote, I think, is so instructive because they were playing Spurs. And that's what Thomas Frank is trying to do and failing to do. And Sean Dyche, with less time, has done it, which is you get the basics right.
Yeah.
But and at Forest, he's allowed to try and do that. At Spurs, they're not interested. The fan base are not interested in a manager who comes in and tries to get the basics right. They want the other fluffy stuff to come first, and
Flair stuff, I think we could call it.
And get the basics. Stuff. The basics will come automatically. Well, they won't, will they? They won't come automatically. You have to build from the bottom up. And Frank is being pilloried for trying to make them solid, to try and follow that Sean Dyche mantra, which is the correct order of things. You don't allow flair to happen unless you've got the basics right. That makes absolute sense. Every single manager will say, you start with your solid defence and then a thinking solid midfield. And then you start wondering about who you've got up front.
I mean, I've been sceptical about Thomas Frank's chances of success at Tottenham on this show a couple of times, but I was watching this game and thinking, you've not got a very good squad here, mate. Like, I don't think they've got any leaders, really, particularly. I know Romero's the captain, but he spent half this game on his arse rolling around trying to get free kicks after being bullied as the centre-half. And I don't think they've got any, to use the kind of kids' phrase, clutch players. We talk about Morgan Rogers for Aston Villa going, give me the ball, I'll bang one in the top corner. I look at that Tottenham team and go, who have they got? And I know they're missing players with injury and stuff. Maybe you could say Maddison would be that if he was fit.
Kulusevski.
But yeah, Kulusevski, they're huge losses. But you look at the team Frank's got and you go, no one was grabbing this game and going, right, we're going to stand up to Forest. It just rolled over. It was pathetic.
Are we thinking about Spurs wrong? Should we, because we consider them a team that top 6, they're thereabouts, but last season they were 17th.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Should we, in the same way that we adjusted our expectations with Manchester United, think about this as a team that is now roughly mid-table? Obviously not 17th, not 16th Manchester United, but a team that is now quite a way away from those top teams that compete regularly in Europe. And that needs time and development and structure in order to move back into that bracket that needs serious work. I think...
Will the fans give them the time for that, though? That's the question.
That is the question.
While still competing in the Champions League, of course, which they are.
But I think it's worth posing that question because when you look at the quality... When was the last time Spurs were displayed a level of good performance? Seriously, can you remember? This is a serious question. Does anyone remember when would you say that was?
As in consistent run of games? No, I can't remember.
Because I mean, you could have made the same point for Liverpool because they stopped being good after the PSG match, right? They stopped being champions level from March onwards. So this period of form that you see now, you go, well, actually, it's 8 months worth of not very good performances. I think you could say that for an even longer period with Spurs, which then means, okay, why are we judging them as a team? Well, obviously they're in the Champions League, but that should be, let's say.
I often ask myself that question. I'm not sure why we should judge them.
So you agree with Hamzah that actually maybe we should reframe Tottenham this season as a mid-table team?
I think we should refrain them always.
Their actions are obviously where they want to be, right?
There goes every single Tottenham listener that we've had. But maybe they'll agree. I mean, I think when you look at that squad and that performance yesterday against Forest,
it's actually an inherent problem. Spursiness is a problem. There's this. No, it's a set. No. But if you have a fan base, and it's a big fan base because they are traditionally a big club, who believe that they stand for something, and they never allow that thing to blossom. They want it to happen by magic. You are always going to fail. Big
questions for Thomas Frank and the Tottenham board as well. Sunder, who's a listener, getting in touch saying that they need to spend and some investment in January to support Frank and his desires to get Tottenham further up the table.
There is. I mean, the rumours are that they have the money to spend. It's the decision is whether they want to spend it on what Frank wants or on someone else wants.
It's whether we will see it. Let's finish very quickly, as the jokes at the start of the show, with a quick mention for Liverpool's 2-0 win against Brighton. Hamzah, we were saying before the show, Brighton looked pretty good in this game. If they'd taken their chances, we might have been talking about something else entirely. Africa Cup of Nations coming up. I mentioned earlier, Sunderland, the team with the most players leaving for that competition with 6. Manchester United also losing 3, as are Fulham and Burnley, and then lots of teams losing 2. Everton losing Ndiaye and Gay. They're going to be huge losses for them. Leeds, Chelsea, Arsenal, Newcastle, Bournemouth and Villa all not losing any players. Liverpool just losing the one. Mo Salah back for Liverpool, but maybe back for the last time. Do we think we'll see him in a Liverpool shirt again? Just a quick answer. Alyson, Hamzah, then Gregor.
Yes.
Hamzah?
Hope so.
Yeah. Yes, I think
there's been a lot of big, long pauses on this show, and that was another final one.
That's mark of good questions.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Hamzah. Back with some compliments. Nice to see just before Christmas.
Yeah, it's kind of gut feeling is that he doesn't want to bow out and go to the Saudi. I might be completely wrong with that.
A person doesn't sign that wrangle over the contract for that long, and say I'd actually quite like to play.
That's a big part of it.
And
I think what will happen is that AFCON has come at the perfect time for this entire situation, that he goes away to AFCON and maybe wins AFCON, as Ian Hawkey's writing on the Times website today. Big pressure on Egypt to finally deliver. They've lost 2 finals with Salah in the team, and they'll come back and Liverpool will just pretend that whole thing didn't happen. We're like, what fallout? No, we're delighted. Come on back. Congratulations on your amazing performance from AFCON. We're looking forward to you helping us qualify for the Champions League. It's great. Nice to have you back.
On the team that he returns to. Though,
Very true.
If this is a team that still needs goals, and it's, God, thank God, Mo, you're back. But if, for example, in a month's
it's
time,
all clicked without him.
Yeah, Isak and Ekatike are starting together and Vert is playing behind them and it all looks wonderful, then it's a very different discussion. So Slot has a month, essentially, to work out on the field whether Salah is a necessary player for him or not.
Yeah, really interesting. We'll see what the next month holds. We'll leave it there. Alyson Rudd, Hamzah, Khalique-Loonat and Gregor Robertson, thank you very much for joining me. Thank you too for listening. We'll be back on Thursday. We'll see you then.